Hello there, and welcome to Empower Your Soul. I am riding high right now because I just had three freaking amazing readings with three amazing women. And I love these days. Oh, can you please spread the word about me? Because I want to really just do readings all the time. Like I would do it 5 days, 6 days a week if I could. If I had enough clients to do that, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't right now. So please spread the word about me. I would really appreciate it because holy shit, it was such an amazing day talking to, I'm going to look at my notes right now and I'll get to a point, I promise. But we started the day. Oh, this is why I'm feeling really good too, because I started the day with coffee and chat with some of my amazing mediumship mastermind women, and we talked about pendulums and muscle testing, and talking about the highest self and what do you do when if you had a mediumship reading and the spirit guide team comes in and says you're not doing mediumship. I'm going to talk today. Like, what do you do then, right? Crystals, manifesting clientele, plants and healing. Like it was such. That was in 1 hour, everybody. It was the best. I'm loving my mastermind community right now so much. I'm digging the energy and the people. And if you're a part of that, thank you for being there. What a wonderful day to start a Thursday. Way to start a Thursday. What a wonderful, wonderful energy to sit in and drink coffee, talk spirit. Can you tell my energy is up in the ether right now? I am not here in the physical world anymore. But I wanted to take this opportunity while I'm in the energy. And I think that's so important for me in this podcast and me in this work is when I'm in the energy and I'm in the moment, this is when I need to hit record. So that's what I'm doing right now. So shout out to my lovely women that sat with me on March 6th. That's when I'm recording this. And it was just a wonderful day of just empowerment and reminding these three women who they are and why they're here and how amazing life can be and how they've done the hard work and they're at this point where they get to choose. And I think that's really what my soul alignment readings are about, is just reminding you of your infinite potential and your amazing path and how everything you've done has led you to this moment. And now you get to choose what to do with it. And I just want to thank all three of you women for trusting me with allowing me to channel spirit and deliver these amazing messages to you and your amazing, bring in evidence of your amazing departed loved ones. It was the best day. I loved it. I love all my clients, but it was such a good day. But I do want to take this moment to talk about a question the last person my last session had today, and this is from Margaret. I hope you don't mind me saying your name, Margaret, but she had such a good question and she's like, you should record this on your podcast. I was like, fine, I'll do it right away. But she was saying, so you do project management? And I'm like, yep, I do. And she's like, how do you deal with the construct of time as a project manager, as somebody who came from a business background? How do you think about how you deal with time? And I think it's such a good question because I think there's a lot of things about time that I'm going to say a lot of people don't understand. I assume that quite a few of you listening know about time, but for those of you that maybe don't, or you're less familiar, or you just plain don't think about it, because I have lots of spiritual topics that I just plain don't think about. The idea of time, it doesn't exist in the spirit world, and there's a lot of implications to that. And I know here in the physical world, it's very hard for us to think about time not existing because we literally live by time. I can see right now as I'm sitting at my desk, I have my time on my watch. I have my time on my phone. I can see the time clocking up, counting how long I've been talking on this podcast so far. I see the time at least one, two. I would see it three other ways on my monitors that are behind my screen. So we live in a very time-centered world. The spirit world, time does not exist. There is no time. Everything happens at the same time. And I cannot, to be honest with you, fully wrap my head around this idea that time is not real in the spirit world. What I know to be true, though, is that when people pass, they can come through immediately. There is no transition time from the physical to the spirit world. What I know is that even if someone passed many, many, many years ago, they are still going to come through knowing exactly what you've been doing and where you've been, right? So like, and they can recall memories with perfect clarity and precision, right? If we go even deeper into this, when we talk about the Akashic Records, you essentially have a book of a soul where you can access information in the past, present, and future, potential futures. There is no limitation to what you can access when. And I like to blow my kids' mind. I'm probably not the best mom because of this, but like my son, I'm sorry if I have to say this, and I'm sorry if it disturbs you a little bit. My son is at the stage where he's really into World War II, like loves it, he's like reading books. He's getting giant books that are meant for like adults at the library and bringing them home and looking at the pictures and reading about it. Am I a horrible mom? Probably, but all the kids in 5th grade are doing it at his school right now. So all the little boys are loving World War II, and he comes to me and he's like, Mom, do you think I was in World War II in a past life? And I was like, you probably were, buddy. There's probably a reason you're obsessed with this. And I'm like, here's the really cool part, bud. And he's like, what? I'm like, when you die, you can go to any time. You can go back to World War II and see what it was like, right? If you want, you can reincarnate into a life in World War II when you move on from this life, right? Like, it's so interesting having these conversations, because essentially this idea of past life doesn't exist. This idea of future life doesn't exist. And this is why I kind of struggle with saying it, but I'll probably keep saying it that way on this podcast, is because everything happens at the same time, because there is no time. So it's almost like time is just a loaf of bread sticking straight in the air off the counter, right? All those different slices are all different lives, all of your past lives, all happening at the same time. There is no difference. I don't know why I thought about a loaf of bread going vertical off the on the counter, but I did. So that's kind of like it. And I think it's really cool. And oh man, this is the reference I just made to Margaret. It's kind of like Loki, because Loki in Marvel, I'm a huge Marvel fan, by the way. Didn't like this until a few years ago. A friend of mine got me into it, but it's just like Loki, or like the multiverse of madness. Like everything can happen at the same time. And that's where this idea of quantum leaping, timeline jumping comes from. I don't know too much about that. I'm not going there. But everything happens at the same time. So I don't know if there's any minuses to that, but the pluses of that are when you go into the Akashic Records, and I have done this firsthand and I'm obsessed with it. When you go into the Akashic Records and you ask for a healing, so let's say I went in there, one of the first times I went into the Akashic Records, I was continuously anxious 24/7. Could not, like, there's nothing that I could do that could get rid of my anxiety. So I just learned about the Akashic Records. I can go and ask, what lifetime was the source of my just constant anxiety from? So I went in there, asked that question, and they brought me back to when I was a farmer. I was a male, and I essentially was in charge of taking care of like my family with this farm. And what happened was there was a massive drought. So there were no crops. There was nothing to feed my family. There was nothing to feed the animals on the farm. And essentially, like, we ended up dying. The whole family ended up dying because I couldn't take care of, I couldn't control the drought. I couldn't control the fact that we had no food, no water, right? So we died because there wasn't enough food, right? Newsflash, we die in every lifetime in the Akashic Records. If you're not prepared to hear how you die, don't go in the Akashic Records. So the source of this anxiety was doing everything I could, like asking people for water, like traveling really far to go to like rivers to go get water. I did everything I could to take care of my family and so that they could survive. But all of the odds were stacked against me. So no matter what I did, we were essentially destined to die. That was the whole point of this. A little depressing, but that's where the anxiety came from, is no matter what I do, I'm never going to be able to overcome any obstacles that come in my life. And I felt this way most of my life, right? So as I go into the Akashic Records and I see the source of this anxiety, what you do in the Akashic Records, a little cheat sheet for you, is you ask to see that lifetime from every perspective, from my perspective, from my wife's perspective, from my kids' perspective, right? So that you understand, because I was so upset that I couldn't save them, and they saw what I did for them, that really I went above and beyond and did everything I could for them, right? And they helped out too. So it was like seeing the love and forgiveness from every angle allowed me to essentially clear out that anxious energy in that lifetime. And because I cleared out that anxious energy in that lifetime, again, all of these lifetimes are parallel. I've cleared out that anxiety in every lifetime, including my current lifetime. And I can tell you that this healing went over the course of 10 minutes. This was like a 10-minute me just meditating in my head, seeing these pictures, hearing these things, seeing these perspectives. And then I asked the Akashic Records, can you clear that energy for me? Can you heal me from that, from the anxiety? And then literally like poof, it's like the end of The Usual Suspects. Poof, they were gone. That anxiety was gone. It has not come back. And when I tell you about these healing past, present, future, by healing in the Akashic Records, by the way, if you want this for you, soul alignment sessions, the way to go. That's what I mean about past, present, future, all overlapping. You do one thing in one lifetime, it affects you in all the lifetimes. Is this enough of a mindfuck, everybody? Is this all right? Moving on. So when I talk about time, it doesn't exist. It's not real in the spirit world. So a spirit can come in looking very young, even though they died very old. And a spirit can come in if they died in utero and come in looking like the age they are now. And in fact, spirit really messed with me this week because this dad came through and he looked like he was 70 and he died in his 40s. And I was like, wait a second. So was this 30 years ago? And she's like, yeah, it was 30 years ago. And I'm like, okay, there it is. Thanks, Dad, for totally confusing me. But this is what I mean by they can show up however they want to show up. So it doesn't, like, time doesn't exist. All right, I'm going to leave that there. Isn't that fun? Because mediumship isn't hard enough unless the dead people are showing up the way I expect them to. It's always fun. It's always an adventure. But I will say, bringing it back to Margaret's question, how do I, as somebody who's essentially been ruled by the clock for most of my life, how do I deal with the concept of time now? And I think it's a really interesting question. And I explained it to her as I kind of play jump rope with it. Because I realize it's not linear. It doesn't exist. So what I've started doing, and it's blowing my mind how this is working. So I'm like in the middle of this right now. I have to be honest with you. I have essentially stopped resisting, as I've talked about in the previous podcast. And I've started allowing and letting spirit kind of guide me in terms of when is the best time or energy to do certain tasks. So I'm gonna pause there for a second, because what would happen before I get to these tasks, what would happen before when I started to really like think about time and all these things when I was still working in my corporate job and private equity, I was so burnt out. And what spirit would do is they would make time for me. And when I say they would make time for me, they would make my internet not work. They would make people cancel meetings on me. They would make my camera shut off because I was on camera all day long every day. They would make my camera not work so that I could go do the dishes, so I could go do the laundry, because otherwise I had to be on camera and I couldn't multitask, even though I was so dumb all these meetings. So they would literally make time for me, and everything was fine. Everything was, and I was like, cool, this is neat. So they literally, and I love it. And I was in an Akashic Records class reading, and they're like, spirit's making time for you. And I just started busting out laughing. I was like, they certainly are, because this is what's happening in A, B, and C. So that's the fun of spirit. So if you're ever on calls and all of a sudden your internet goes out, thank you, spirit. So they keep doing it. But then as we bring it into nowadays, what's really happening is I'm just going with the flow and letting the tasks and let spirit guide me. So for example, today I had, 3 readings plus my mastermind this morning, and I just let spirit tell me what day I should do this. I was like, based on the energy, what would be the best day to block my calendar and make sure I'm doing a whole bunch of readings? And they said Thursday. So that's what I did today, right? And then I used the rest of the time to essentially just sit in the energy in the moment and say, what's the best use of my time right now? Where's the least resistance? And that's what I have been doing. So I don't know if the concept of time goes away, but when I go with my intuition, my spiritual guides first, and ask them what the best path is, and then fill in the time based on my intuition and what I'm receiving from guidance, I'm finding that is my best and highest aligned path, and I am so much less stressed at the end of the day. So that is my extremely long answer to your question, Margaret, about time and how it drives me crazy. And actually, sometimes time speeds up, sometimes time slows down. I've seen that happen too, and it's just like I just enjoy it. I just go for the ride and let spirit drive me places, because that's the best way to live. And that's what I had for you today. Thank you so much, everybody. If you have questions, I'd love to answer them for you. They are my jam. All right. I wish you all a wonderful day. Take care.